It's time for Survivor Angels, an approach to strengthen trauma survivors. Here, you can escape what draws negativity and engage your positive abilities and the gifts that you've always had. Let's activate your angels. And to help you on that journey, here's Chaplain Jodi.
Welcome. There's a pattern I want to name today. It's not belief, not a doctrine, a pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. After survival, after near-death experiences, prolonged trauma, medical crises, sudden loss, or moments where life fractures, people usually don't report enlightenment first. They don't report visions. They don't report cosmic downloads. And they certainly don't report bliss. They report presence. Someone or something with them. And almost instinctively, they reach for the word angel. Not because they were looking for one, but because no other word fits. So let's clear the air immediately. This episode is not here to convince you angels exist. That's not my intention. It's here to explore why survivors across cultures, belief systems, and even psychological profiles reach for the same language, often reluctantly. Many of them say right away, I'm not religious. I don't believe in angels. I don't even like that word. And then they describe the experience anyway. That matters. Survivors don't sense power, they sense accompaniment. Here's the first distinction most people miss. Survivors are not reporting power. They're reporting steadiness, containment, quiet guidance, being held in something larger without being overtaken. Angels don't show up as spectacle. They show up as regulation. In moments where the nervous system should collapse, it doesn't. Something steadies the line. Now, the nervous system. The nervous system explains part of this, but not all. Let's stay grounded here. Neuroscience tells us that in moments of extreme stress, the brain activates survival circuitry. All those little bing bang booms going on in our heads. Time slows. You know how people say everything went into slow-mo, into slow motion? Because perception sharpens and attention narrows. You become very focused. But here's the thing. The brain's job in survival is self-preservation. Yet many survivors describe experiences that de-center the self. They feel accompanied, observed, witnessed without judgment. That's not how panic works. Panic isolates. Accompaniment connects. Angels appear at thresholds, always have. Across traditions, Jewish, Christian, Islamic, mystical, indigenous, the list goes on. Angels appear at crossings. Remember, that's what a threshold is a crossing. Not in daily life, not during comfort, not during certainty. They appear at birth, at death, at annunciations, at exiles, at returns. They are boundary intelligences. They don't remove the crossing. They stand with you while you cross. So why as survivors are we more likely to notice them? Well, survival, first of all, strips illusion. That reality is raw. It collapses unnecessary noise. It shatters assumptions, and it forces presence. When the future is uncertain, attention sharpens. You kind of noticing that now? This doesn't make survivors special. It makes them exposed. And exposure changes what can be perceived. Angels are not guides. They are stabilizers. And this matters deeply. Angels do not tell survivors what to do. They don't give step-by-step instructions. They don't override agency. They don't demand allegiance. They stabilize the field. In psychological terms, they provide co-regulation, containment. That's that word again. Go back to last episode if you need to know more about containment. Non-anxious presence. In spiritual terms, they provide witness, orientation, threshold support. Those are the same function described in different languages. It's often misinterpreted. Here's where things go sideways. When someone describes angelic presence, the listener often jumps to conclusions. Either, well, that's delusional, or that means you're chosen. Both interpretations miss the point entirely. Angelic presence doesn't elevate you, it steadies you. And anything that inflates identity should be questioned. Survivors don't seek angels, they encounter them. Another important distinction, most survivors aren't spiritual seekers. They didn't meditate for years. They weren't chasing enlightenment. They weren't opening portals. They were trying to live. And then life broke. This matters because it strips intention from the experience. No seeking, no striving, no agenda. Just presence, meeting, vulnerability. Let's look at the role of the veil. Remember how we talked about the veil as a perceptual boundary? Angels exist at that boundary. They're not on one side or the other. They're translators, they're messengers. They allow contact without collapse, without flooding, without overwhelming, and without destabilization. That's why their presence is often subtle. They don't pull you through the veil. They help you to stand near it. That's why survivors sense them before meaning. Here's something critical. Meaning comes later. First comes orientation. First comes, am I alone? First comes, can I survive this moment? First comes, is there ground beneath me? Angels answer that question without explanation. They don't explain suffering. They don't justify pain. They certainly don't offer platitudes. They offer company. Sacred geometry shows this pattern too. Look at the Vesica Piscis. Two overlapping circles, a shared space between worlds. That space is where creation happens. Angels occupy that overlap. Not fully human, not fully beyond. I'm not talking angels, I'm talking the space. But they are the geometry of meeting. Survivors live in that overlap for a while, not permanently, but long enough to be changed. Angelic language can become a problem, let's be honest. Angel language becomes dangerous when it replaces grounding, isolates people, you've heard me say this before, discourages support, elevates identity, and creates urgency or fear. I can't repeat this enough. That's not angelic. That's destabilization wearing spiritual clothing. That's the wolf in sheep's clothing. True accompaniment never demands withdrawal from life. Integration is the goal, not contact. This podcast will never encourage you to chase angels. If you're chasing, something is off. Angels don't require pursuit. They recede as integration increases. Their job is temporary, and it's healthy. Why this episode matters right now, because it really does. We live in a time where spiritual language is everywhere, and grounding is rare. People are hungry for meaning, but starving for orientation at the same time. The survivor angels exist to restore balance. To say, yes, these experiences happen. No, they don't mean what you think they mean. And yes, you can stay human while understanding them. Here's a quiet truth to carry. If something met you at your lowest point and helped you remain intact, it deserves respect. But it does not deserve worship. The work now is not contact. The work now is integration. In episode 6, we're going to talk about why survivors struggle with community after awakening, why belonging feels harder and conversation feels thinner, even why loneliness can increase even as awareness expands, and how not to disappear because of it. If you felt accompanied but afraid to name it, if you felt held without explanation, if you've wondered why that presence didn't stay forever, this episode is your answer, or at least deep food for thought. You were never meant to stay at the threshold. You were meant to cross it and then come back with yourself intact. But the coming back is a different thing than what might come to mind right now. We'll talk about that in a later episode. So until next time, stay grounded, stay human, and remember, accompaniment is a bridge, not a destination. Activate your angels.
Thanks again for joining Chaplain Jodi on Survivor Angels. For more information, go to chaplainjodi.me. That's chaplainjodi.me. And on Facebook at Survivor Angels-Chaplain Jodi. This is Dave Schrader. Until next time, sending you off to activate your angels.